This video is more of a stub or a dump. Huge dump. So here we go. This is going to be about what is commonly called the poor man's judge, the judge, and a bunch of other guns like it. Now, why am I doing a video about guns? Because I'm tired of looking at politics and it's making me angry, so I'm going to do this. This isn't politics. This is just comparison. Leinad, Obray, FMJ, and a dozen other names it seems like. Company that changed names a lot because for ideological, political, or stupid reasons, they kept trying to push something called the street sweeper and the ladies' home companion and other really, really triggering things instead of what they were really valuable for. Really, really cheap, any caliber, generic, expired patent-based handguns and rifles and shotguns. Leinad, Obray, FMJ, etc. made single action, top break derringers, available in any caliber, included double and single barrels that were 3.7 inches long or longer or shorter. For 45 and 410 chamberings, for being able to do 45 Colt, maybe even ACP, maybe even all sorts of things I'm going to discuss, and also 22s, even a little revolver, what looked like a really tiny short barrel shotgun, that kind of thing. They were generic design based on copying a small derringer slash flare gun design. Having innovations such as having multiple positions and multiple types of firing, for instance, rim or center fire. Being able to move the firing pin left to right to do the barrels. Being able to have a generic open frame design, lower, where you could put any caliber from 12 gauge all the way down to 22 on the damn thing. I'm going to be reproducing this design. And I'm going to be releasing it as a 2D print. What that means is you print it out on a sheet of paper. It's instructions. In the United States, unless I haven't checked recently, there's a rule against publishing this information to where anybody outside of the United States can get it. So it would have to be something that would require you confirm you're an American or something, or be sent it. Or I could release it as instructions and diagrams and anonymize it and just, But anyway, let's talk about this design as compared to other designs that are directly compared to it. And yes, this company did put out an over and under and side-by-side version that can handle, again, all the way up and down. And they did make a rifle or shotgun version, long guns. Now, the company also expended a lot of effort, I'm going to repeat this one more time, selling things that were bordering on federal violations and were arrested or were harassed over it because they wanted to push that. Even though the big demand, even though people look down on them, a lot like people look down on a High Point, was that the guns that they produced would allow you to have a gun that would work and was a kit. The reliability was dependent on you doing a good job with it. They sold parts and kits and partial finishes. They started off a long time before it was popular, the below 80% lower. They sold gun parts. You could buy the missing parts and they would show up as a 50% lower, not an 80%. That's the part that's serialized and is controlled. And they could have very easily just sold you a printed copy of it by mail for a couple of bucks and made a lot of money. Let's compare this to what it's compared to a lot, the Taurus Judge. It's a derivative of a 45 Colt revolver. Comes in 3-inch, 4-inch, and 6.5-inch tracker barrel lengths, and in 2.5 and 3-inch cylinder chamber lengths to handle 45 Colt and 410 shells. Not 3.5-inch cylinder, although there is something like that. There's also the Taurus Judge Magnum, 2.5-inch, 3-inch chamber, 410 and 45. So we also have the Taurus Raging Judge, based on the Raging Bull Magnum, and it fires 454 Cazul, 45 Colt, and 3-inch 410 shot shells. And it can moon clip 44 Magnum. That's a lot. But these costs for them. What's the real cost of this, Jimmy? Um, you could buy the parts to make your Cobra shitbox special a lot cheaper, and you could just change the barrels by, I'm not kidding, pulling a couple of pins. Let's try some company that did a barrel change out, but let's talk about the Taurus Rossi Circuit Judge carbine. It's got a buttstock, a forend, an 18.5-inch barrel. It's these are and it has a cylinder. It can fire more than one shot. It's a practical gun. What caliber is it? So anyway, what you get up here is using a kind of universal cylinder, universal chamber to fire all sorts of things, or you take out the cylinder and put in another one that is special. They're not especially good. If they're made short barrel, they have to have rifling, so they're not really good for firing shot. So firing a shotgun slug out of it is not any good of an idea either. Short range, however, doesn't matter because these are personal defense weapons. Leinad, Cobra, FMJ, top break, single shot or double barrel little guns that can do exactly the same stuff, look down on for much, much less. Okay? Now let's look up the Bond arms. 2.5-inch to 4-inch, around that. Double barrel derringer has a flip up double barrel. Can fire 45 and 410. There's 38 special, 357 magnum, and 45 ACP by doing barrel swaps. And it is more in line with this. And it uses an up and top and bottom. And people make barrels for it and fire all sorts of things. There's a 22. There's all sorts of things. And yes, you can put a really long barrel on it, or build it with a really long barrel in the first place so you can make it into anything you want to. And this can be used to fire much, much more extreme stuff. And have high accuracy because it's just a barrel and you just break the handle flips up on top and you pull out your cartridges and put in new ones and slam the hammers down and everything's ready to go. 6-shot 2.75-inch barrel Smith & Wesson Governor exists. Fires 410 and 45 ACP and 45 Schofield and 45 Colt. And then there's the 5-shot 1994 MIL Thunder. It chambers 3-inch 410 shells, 45 Colt, fired through a 2-inch barrel. And in 1994, it could do 45-70 government variant. It's legal in California because they made it illegal for you to fire 410 shotgun shells out of any pistol. Not because it's any more powerful, people assume that. It's actually much weaker and much less effective. But because they just wanted to. They also did that to another gun that can change out every barrel and every cartridge I can come up with that I've found so far, Thompson Center, which is a pistol / rifle / shotgun that established a law that says we can do these interchangeables. Y'all owe them a thank you if you want to have that. Now, because of California laws, there's also this anti-barrel swap Bond arms. Californicated version of the Big Bear and Brown Bear that can't swap barrels and take some of their damn cartridges. So you can't put a 410 shotgun shell in it. Except that there's a 410 shotgun shell that's specifically made available that jam fits into a 45 Colt chamber and partway into the rifling, so you can do it anyway. Because it's considered a garden gun in Britain, they actually make cartridges like that, so you can put them into a 45 Colt chambered gun. They're available on the market and defeat the whole purpose, and they're basically a 45 Colt shot shell. And what's funny is, from Britain, of course, there's a shot shell that's 3.5-inch long, which means it literally will stick out of the damn thing, apparently. Because that had to happen. So, yeah, and the cartridges aren't illegal, but you can't have a barrel that makes it to where it's easy to do that in California. And the funny thing is, if you just make it long enough that it's street legal for being a rifle or shotgun barrel, they still say it can't be a combo because of California. Anyway, coming up with a universal chamber based on the rim diameter, base diameter, and then the neck diameter, smallest part before you get to where the bullet comes out, and then the bullet diameters. And case lengths, which determines how deep of the chamber you have to have, for all sorts of things like Colt, 410, 45 Schofield, which I didn't even look up before any of this, 4570, which I've looked into way too much, 454 Cazul, and 44 Magnum, and on and on and on. I was looking up how you could make a universal chamber without making it to where it just sucks for all of them. Couldn't succeed at it. That's why Bond Arms Barrel Swap 1 is the spiritual inheritor of the methodology that actually worked. Thompson Center, swap out the barrel, swap out the chamber, don't compromise, do a good job having a gun kind of designs, versus Leinad Cobray shit boxes that people were angry about being so low quality when you had to finish the work they started. Versus Taurus Judge being obnoxiously expensive comparatively and not being any kind of real improvement, except that you get 5 shots or 4 shots or 6 shots, depending, instead of just 2 shots from the Bond Arms, etc. And again, I have to point out that Leinad Cobray, the shitbox, there was a revolver version that just did 22, and there you are. Just think it's funny, everybody hovers around the 45 up to 50 caliber limit, because that's the upper limit for a pistol if you're not aware of it, before or any gun, before it's considered something that may or may not be declared a destructive device. So under 50 caliber, you're kind of stuck with these things, and the chamber diameters and all that kind of stuff make it to where if you just make a straight pipe as a shotgun out of a metal tube, a piece of steel tubing, you end up with a suspiciously almost exactly 50 caliber barrel to start off with that will work with most of this stuff if you jam it in there. Just saying. So I was looking all of this up mostly because I was trying to see what the status of some of these are, prices, that sort of thing. If you're interested, I'll include the names like, the Taurus and the Bond Arms and the Leinad Cobray and all the other things. But what is the takeaway from this? Because these are still popular. People get them as a, if I have to shoot, I can shoot kind of gun. Shooting twice or just once is not considered tactically intelligent or self-defense intelligent. Firing multiple shots really limits what you can do for your caliber. And you end up, if you want to have big cartridges, you end up usually having long, big cartridges, because that's just kind of how it ends up. So you end up with things that are not amenable to making a cheap, mechanically simple gun. Magazine-fed guns are more complicated. They cost more. They have more liability issues because they break more often. More parts cause them to break more often. And you end up kind of getting stuck with, the same thing. Most people just get a magazine-fed, full-sized 45 caliber or something like that, or get something right near 9mm, that sort of thing. And or they just buy a revolver and run 22 caliber pistol bullets, or like here, double barrel wannabe Taurus Judge that is the Bond Arms or Leinad Cobray, where you can just fire it and hope you don't have to fire a second time. And then there's always California trying to make it to where you can't have the usage of anything that fires shot, even though, again, you can just get specialty cartridges or just make them that do it. So, yeah. Just a bunch of stuff, most of it mostly a data dump. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that.